Hi everyone, my name is Simon, and today we have our next video in our EBI seminar series. Today's topic is getting started in entrepreneurship, and I have with me Ouwei Wang, and I will let him introduce himself.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Ouwei Wang. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Pow.bio. I graduated a few years ago from UC Berkeley with my PhD in microbiology from Professor John Koh's lab. At Pow.bio, we provide intelligent fermentation services to the growing synthetic biology industry. We help the synthetic biology companies to optimize their production process and produce the first kilogram of their product.
All right, okay, let's get started then. Our first question is, can you tell us about why you wanted to start your own company?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I don't think there was ever like a moment that I was like, oh, I'm gonna really start startup. It was always like by the end of my I guess end of my PhD study, life was getting really boring almost. I was like, there's no new data coming in, there's new research, I'm just writing paper, writing thesis. And then I was like, what should I do with my life? I don't really like it, just like it feels numb. And then my professor, John Coase, kindly introduced me to this director, so Eugene No from the National Science Foundation's iCorps program, where the Eugene helped me to really show me what I should look for a product market fit for my technology. And that's where we actually went out to interview 100 different potential customers. And during that process, we have to do a lot of cold calls. There's a lot of interviewing that we actually went out to interview people. And it was such a different thing than my previous life, which is pure research. So that in the end of that, it feels like honestly, it feels a bit stressful, but also feels like very alive. It's like, oh, this is something that I really, it makes me feel like I'm doing something meaningful. I'm building something that actually people care. So that's when I was like, oh, I should really work on this startup and see if I could build this thing to something bigger.
Got it. And could you tell us a little bit about what the NSF iCorps program is and what it entails?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's National Science Foundation's Innovation Corps program, where they provide 50,000 seed funding for startup entrepreneurs to conduct market research, where we have to interview 100 different potential customers to test whether we have a product market fit. So as I said earlier, the biggest problem in startup is really that we all have a good technology, we all have great ideas, but when do people want to pay for it is a whole different question, right? So some people have great technology, but that doesn't mean there's a market demand for it. So that NSF Effort program will really provide the opportunity so that we could go out even before we raise money, before we spend like years trying to build a company that people may not need, to identify whether it's a good product, whether there's a good product market fit.
Got it. And what kinds of surprises or challenges come up when first starting off in entrepreneurship? And how do you approach these challenges?
Yes, definitely. So I think the biggest thing I can think of right now is probably the sudden change of role. So for example, I was a student for many years. I was undergrad, I was grad student, and then suddenly I'm like a manager. Like suddenly you have to start dealing with things like negotiating lease, finding a place to work, trying to buy materials. Usually just ask a lab manager to do so. Now you have to worry about lead time. Like for example, how long, like lead time, which is how long things show up to the lab from the day you purchase it, right? Sometimes it like small stuff like pipette tips, right? People don't think about this, but it shows up like a few months later, right? So there are things really, just suddenly you become sort of like the adult in this room, right? There's no longer, oh, I have a question, I need to go ask my professor. I have a question, I'm gonna ask this postdoc. I'm out of these things, I can find a lab manager. Like suddenly everything's you. You're responsible for research, for business, for operation. You have to negotiate lease. You have to be responsible for like legal stuff. You have to incorporate, deal with IP, intellectual property. So it's like, there's a major change in role and it can get overwhelming initially.
Okay. And how did you go from ideation to profit in your experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not we are not making profit. We do have revenue. We're a post-revenue company. Not many companies in the synthetic biology space make profit, and there's also not that many. There are more, but not that many make revenue. So we're in a very unique space where there's always heavy amount of R&D, research and development is needed. So it's very important to start with the end in mind. Like if you are like a product-oriented company, what kind of product do you want to build? Like, what is your minimum viable product so that you can actually make a sale? And very often that people spend like 5 to 10 years to conduct research without making any profit or even revenue at all. For us, we are going after a service-based business model where we provide services to the growing synthetic biology industry. So for us, we have to keep in mind like how much money we spend for to purchase to purchase equipment. How much money we use to hire specialized, like well-trained personnel. And from there, you build a business. You start calculating, oh, this is like the revenue I need to achieve like a break-even point. This is the profit margin I need. So there's like a heavy amount of business that like mapping and modeling we have to do to ensure that it's not a lost cost business and it's a scalable business.
Okay. And when you first start off in entrepreneurship, would you say that you need a team right away?
Yeah, I would say it depends on the funding strategy that you are going to pursue. For example, if you are a grant-based company, you don't need a full team right away. You can start writing grant by yourself. Instead, actually, that's what I did. You can start writing grant by yourself and apply for grant from depends on your field. National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, NIH, or other government agencies that provide funding for you. As long as you are a good scientist, you have a good publication record, you are the expert in your field, and you are, like, for example, inventor of your groundbreaking, super impactful technology, then you're fine. On the other side, if you are aiming toward the venture backable path, it is especially important to have a team, especially a team with complementary skills or personalities, so that at least you have an extrovert, so that this person can go out and conduct the business and talk to different investors, potential customers, conduct interviews, right, sell the product. And this person usually is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. And then you should have an introvert where it was like the thinker, the planner, sort of, just think and calculate what is the best strategy and conduct technology research and development. This person usually is the Chief Technology Officer.
Okay. And how should new entrepreneurs prepare themselves for this path and not get discouraged?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess my short answer is that it's a difficult path. It can get very stressful, especially when you go out raise money or try to make grants. You're getting rejection in a pretty high frequency. Like more often things like people don't like your idea than they like your idea. You just have to be really mentally prepared, to be mentally strong and take those rejections and improve and continuously improve yourself and improve your product. It's not an easy path. I would say if you have to think hard whether you want to do this, it's probably not a good idea because it's just very, you have to be like a problem solver. You have to be like love challenges and love overcoming obstacles to be a good entrepreneur.
Okay. And knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently when you first started your company?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference would be that in the end of the day, I think time is the most valuable thing for a startup because you always have limited funding, you always have limited resource, and this all comes down to you have limited time. And you really have to unlock your next milestone before your money runs out, right? So almost like sometimes people say things like, oh, I feel like I'm like in the middle of air running an airplane while like trying to build this airplane. So this comes down to that you want to hire people that can hit the ground and start like going right away. You probably don't want to hire more junior personnel and to train the junior personnel. But that being said, I love like our employee. Everybody is like people learn very fast. But it comes down to things easier on budget or on time. And for a startup, you always want to be on time, not on budget.
Okay, that makes sense. And how can a student, like an undergrad or even a high schooler, how can a student learn more about entrepreneurship and startups?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are many programs at UC Berkeley designed to help entrepreneurships. I know UC Berkeley has School of Business, has entrepreneur student program. There is, again, I mentioned the NSF ACROPS program that I was in, really helps you to conduct market research to get you the first taste of entrepreneurship. The law school has startup law program, which was very helpful because it's a very specialized subject, and for every entrepreneur, you need to have a general idea of what is okay, what is not okay. And then there are SCADEC program, right? So Berkeley affiliated venture program where I think they have different tracks. There is a hot desk track where they open up all their resources to you, and then there is a cohort program where they actually provide 100,000 seed funding for your company. So there are many programs available on UC Berkeley campuses to really culture and encourage entrepreneurship.
Got it. And to end this interview, what is the most important piece of advice you think all new entrepreneurs would benefit from?
Yeah, I would say two things. So one, I mentioned earlier, so time is your most valuable, the most valuable thing. You really want to ensure that you save time. And that means if that means you have to spend more money, that's totally fine. The second thing is product market fit. Many, especially like grad students, we invent cool stuff. We have wonderful technology, fascinating technology, very cool discovery. Does that mean people actually going to pay money for your fascinating technology? That's a huge question, right? So whether there's a product market fit, whether your product has a market out there is a huge question. And that's the first question you want to address. If you don't have a market, you don't have a company.
Got it. All right. I think we are out of time, but thank you so much, Ouwei, for being available for this interview. I think we've learned a lot from your experiences. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for checking out the EBI seminar series. If you enjoyed the series, please like this video and subscribe to the EBI YouTube channel for more content on entrepreneurship and biotech. All of our social media will also be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for watching.